Welcome to the Henshin Hangout. My name is Mark, aka Erlim, your host for this segment where we talk about Super Sentai news as well as giving the review on Dom Brothers. So let's jump straight into it. First of all, we have some new toy news straight from the magazine scans, and this is a new Megazord. On screen right now, you're seeing the DX Tora Dragon Jin, which is the 6th Ranger Zord, which looks really cool. It comes with 2 different parts. One is a dragon and one is a purple wolf, which I'm actually really excited to see because, do you know what? It looks really cool, and there's so many more Megazords. And online, some people have pointed out that it looks like Ripley's robo suit from Aliens, which once you see it, you can't unsee it, so I kind of like that. On screen again, you are now seeing some more gears, which obviously are all 6 Rangers, all going from Ninja, from Q Ranger, from Lupin Ranger versus Pato Ranger, from Rear Soldier, and also the Megazord part as well. So I'm really excited for this. And carrying on the trend of gears, we have a new set coming out as well, which has quite a lot of Rangers. So obviously, we have a few from Go Sager to Lupin Ranger versus Pato Ranger to Go Buster as well as O Ranger and a few others there if you want to check them out. Dear God, there's so many gears coming out and I kind of really like this. I generally thought that we wouldn't get any more gears previously from, say, Go Kaija upwards, but obviously we're getting every single one now, which again will look really cool on display. Are you displaying yours? Let me know in the chat or down below in the comments. Alters has been a thing in Dom Brothers for a while, and now we have a new one with the introduction of the new Evil Ranger that's basically going to solo the entire team for the first episode that they're in. We have a new alter form. On screen right now, you are looking at the Don Matsusume's alter form. I hope I got his name right. But basically, this is the Evil Ranger that we've seen in the previews for next week. And I've got to admit, it does look kind of cool. This is a shark. It's going to be interesting. I'm hoping that this is the character that can turn into all the bad guys, because I think that would be really cool for what we've got. So for toys, basically we've got new Zords, we've got a lot of gears, and we've got the alter form for the new bad guy. Now there was some news that was dropped, which is from Shout Factory, and I think that they didn't want this to get out straight away onto Twitter because they did delete their tweet, but obviously the internet has saved it all, as they normally do. What you're looking at now is Shout Factory, which is promoting the new DVD release of 5-Man, and I didn't think that we'd be getting Sentai releases again due to the fact that Hasbro has been blocking this for a while. So maybe they have got around it. Maybe Toei have said, yeah, go ahead, you can release this, although rights do remain with Hasbro. With 5-Man being released, this means that the Sentai DVDs are coming back, and I, for one, am very happy. It does mean that we might be getting some future ones in the future, but I have no idea right now. But as we can see right now, we're getting 5-Man as well as Kamen Rider Kugo, which again, I'm kind of curious on the Kamen Rider ones. If I'm going to be picking up any of the Kamen Rider ones, I'll definitely be picking up Kamen Rider Black RX, because I think that looks really cool, and that's obviously the one for Master Rider. But yeah, I kind of really like this. I think that there's so much stuff coming out now that, again, it's a really good time to being a Sentai fan as well as a Ranger fan if you're really into that. With all the news that we've had so far, let's jump into the review. This is episode 17 of Dom Brothers, and this entire episode mainly follows around Inuzuka, who is the Dom Brothers Black. But I was really kind of like, this episode was a bit silly, but it shows a lot and it tells you the reason the way he is and why he's not been able to mention anything about Natsuki, who is obviously Miho, who's married to Jinojo. And I generally was kind of like, huh. So at the very beginning of this episode, you see that Inuzuka is turning around and walking, wondering what's going on. He's seen Natsumi, and he wants to know, why is she like this? Why didn't she recognize him, etc., etc. He sees this young gentleman who is about to jump off this building, and he transforms and he jumps in to save him. But we have one of the bad guys that actually notices him and tries to attack him, and they demorph and they notice each other. And Sonanai, I think that's how you say her name, she turns around and says, like, you know, oh, I want to find love. Like, tell me about love. And, you know, Inazuma's like, nope, I'm not going to tell you this. And he says, like, oh, if I tell you this, it's embarrassing. And I think she just turns around and has to go at him for some strange, bizarre reason. I don't know if his name's Tanabi in this one. He's in love with this girl called Kana. And we kind of know that she's been in the first episode or previous episodes, both of them have. He ran away from the monster, but she's kind of annoyed because she was left, and I can understand this. So this entire whole episode is about them trying to kind of get them back together. But there is kind of there's a bit of comedy, which was kind of interesting. I kind of really liked it. Inazuma basically dresses up as a devil, and their main plan is to kind of have Tanabi kind of be like, oh hey, I'm going to like save you, and you'll fall back in love with me. But it just ends in Azuma being like attacked by the Sixth Ranger. I can't remember his name at the moment, but he sort of attacks him, which then causes Tanabi to run over and say, hey, are you okay? Are you fine? Which means Koma is just like, nope, I'm leaving. You've pretty much ditched me again, and I don't like this. I think the main part of this entire episode was finding out about Inazuma and Natsumi, the way that they were asleep at this cabin type thing in the woods, and pretty much every one of this team was kind of infected by origami and these like cranes that literally went in their mouths, and they all stood up basically, and this monster wants to find the right person. Natsumi is the only one that was taken because Inazuma literally grabs the crane and destroys it. But the monster gives him a kind of an ultimatum, says, you can't speak about this for 1 year. If you do, you'll never see them again. If you don't speak about this for an entire year, you will have her back and your friends will wake up. This is when Inazuma actually says, hey, the other guys won't wake up due to this. And then, he basically just bails. He's like, oh, I feel so sorry, but my Misho-chan is the most beautiful. I love her. And he just ditches them. And I'm just like, what? Why? Like, he's telling you, he's opening up about this entire thing that's happened to him, and you're running away because you have to go back. I find that this guy doesn't give a shit about anyone apart from himself. Or his Miho and stuff like that, and it just winds me up knowing that he's going to be like this. But it does open up the fact that when they all meet, big shiz is going to go down. Big shiz indeed. We have Sony come by, and she says about love, and Tanabi just literally just walks off. He's in this sort of trance. Now basically Sony and Inazuma have turned around and made a bet, because Sony has seen one of the monsters inside him, and she's like, well, at the very point, love is all that it takes to push this guy over the top and to release this monster onto this city. But one thing, Tanabi turns around after he says like, oh, you're beautiful, but then stops. He's already in love, so therefore he doesn't really want to pursue this. Tanabi and Kana actually start talking to each other, and he says that he loves her, but she brings up the point that he ditched her and ran off, where she literally was going to be attacked by this monster. Now, the one thing that really gets me is the fact that when she could have easily have got out, her bag was trapped, but it wasn't something where she, it looks like she's holding onto it, or it's wrapped around, where yet literally she could have just pulled her arm out. But because of this, Inazuma has rushed in, saved her, and she's now in love with him. And you see this whole room, and I'm just like, oh, okay, this is a bit weird. What? Just wanted posters, but I think it's the pillow I think she has, as well as the bed sheets. And I'm just like, I wouldn't be surprised if Premium Bandai released this much later on. It was just a little bit funny. As Kana turns around and confesses her feelings, Inazuma's looking around going, oh crap, oh, is it me? And then this is when we have Sonozuna, I hope I got his name right, come around and say can you teach me how to cry? And it just weirded me out a bit. I was like, oh, really? He's like, oh, it's just really weird. Sony, I think that's her name, turns around and says, hey, Inazuma is basically the mutt of the hound of the Don brothers, which then causes a fight to break out. Now, we have the monster, and you kind of think, oh god, it's going to happen. Tamba is going to turn around and turn into the monster. But no, it's Connor. She turns into the monster and starts looking for love. But the main thing is, the monster isn't the main issue of this. It seems to be just a fight going on. We get Momotaro, Hazuka, as well as Dombo the Blue come in, and Momotaro is on their shoulders for some strange, bizarre reason. They start fighting, and then we have Don Momogatari come in and transform into his Ranger form and then turns into the Dragon Ranger. Now, I did kind of get a bit, because he pulls these giant gears out, puts them into his thing so he can transform, and then they shrink. I feel like they all should have been exactly the same, but we get the introduction to Dragon Ranger, who is basically Barai, or Tommy if you're a Power Rangers fan. So Zuzuna, as well as Don Momogatari, they start fighting each other, and it's interesting. Now, a lot of people are saying that the tune that the Dragon Dagger plays is the MMPR one, or the Saban version, or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. Maybe they just borrowed the tune and were like, oh, we're going to have this. Basically, everyone destroys the monsters quite quickly and they kind of move on. And the one thing in this I kind of thought was really rude is basically Inazuma turns around and he's like, oh, hey, to Tamba as well as Kana. And they just completely ignore him like he's nothing. And I'm just like, when he's like, hi, you kind of think that she would recognize him, hence why she's got all the stuff over her room. Like, that's going to be really awkward. It's like, oh, I'm going to have to take it down. Inazuma is like, yeah, I don't really care. Like, you know, it's good to see those two lovebirds again, and that's particularly it. So, yeah, that's the entire episode. And the next week, they've all got to try and attack Don Momotaro without him knowing, and that's going to be a fun one. So, I generally kind of really like this one. I found it's nice to know more about Inazuma, about how he is basically talking about a few things, as well as, like, showing his past. I like the introduction of the Dragon Ranger, thought that was kind of cool as well. But yeah, the episode wasn't a bad one. Probably not one of my favorites, but obviously there's so much going on in this one. So I'm kind of looking forward to the next episode. What are your thoughts? Let me know in chat as well as in the comments. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there. My name again is Mark. I host Heirloom over on YouTube. You can follow me on YouTube as Heirloom, on Instagram as Heirloom. But you can also follow me on Twitter as @MainstreamLive. Check me out if you liked this sort of content. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Bye!